on my phone a little bit. You guys can do the same. Once you see it go live,
Okay.
um, then you can share it to your pages or whatever pages you want. But it's probably live right now so people can hear you. Hey, everybody, it's 10 minutes with the Tech
Hi.
Show. So we are live with these three amazing human beings, which I'm really excited about. I know you can't really see me right at this moment, but I promise you, you're going to see me in about 1 second. We're going to get out of this and get back to Zoom. Zoom Live. And there we are. We are live on Facebook, everyone. Hello. All right.
Hello.
You know, I have to share, I like to share it as much as I can so that we can get the questions later and people can respond to you. So welcome. We have Charlotte Overby up at the top. We have Mikayla Goetz, right? Goetz?
Yes.
And
Yeah.
Dalton Hedrick down at the bottom. All right. So welcome, guys. I'm very excited to have you on the show. The arts, it's one of my big things. I love to support the arts. And you are a group that I didn't know about. So I'm fascinated to hear about Boots on the Ground Theater, but we always start with origin stories. So we're going to start with Charlotte first. Hi, Charlotte. Tell us about you.
Hi, yeah, so I'm Charlotte. I am a co-founder of Boots on the Ground. I am from South Carolina, in Myrtle Beach. I more or less grew up there to a military family. We kind of moved around a little bit. And I went to Coastal Carolina University in Myrtle Beach, South Carolina, and that is where I met these wonderful folks that are here on with me.
I love it. All right. Mikayla, how about you?
Yeah. Born in Sunshine State in Florida, in Cocoa. Grew up. I grew up telling stories with my family. So my family celebrates like Jewish holidays. My mom would have huge parties and everybody would dress up and everybody would get a part. And so from a really young age, I've always been part of telling stories in some way and getting people together in a community. And now kind of full circle, it's no coincidence to me that I'm still doing that. From like I said, again, in our living room, my mom would hand out, she's like, okay, you're going to be like, you're like Abraham and you're Moshe and blah, blah, blah. And that's just still me. And then I majored in acting at Coastal Carolina University. Since then, I've been acting and dancing professionally. I just was living in Washington, D.C., and now I'm back in the Orlando area, which is cool. I was working away from home for like 9 years. And then now to be back in Florida and see how much has changed is really exciting.
I love it. I like the stories thing. I think all of us that have any affinity for the arts have some sort of story like that where they're the center of attention. Please watch me perform. Please watch me do my singing or my one act. So how about you, Dalton? Tell us about you.
So I grew up in Fredericksburg, Virginia, just outside of DC, to a family of firefighters. So I've always had a urge to, kind of tick that adrenaline gland. And so grew up doing a lot of different things, mostly sports. Not necessarily telling stories, but I was always loud, super loud. I was the center of attention for sure. Wanted to be the class clown, and had a real Troy Bolton moment in high school. I was, running cross country and track. And then all of a sudden I was roped into doing this play. And the first performance of that play, I just fell in love. And it was that moment I talked to my teacher and now mentor, Matthew Armentrout. And I said, how do I do more of this? He gave me a list of things to do. I did all of those things. One of the last things on that was audition for colleges. And I ended up at Coastal Carolina University as well, in their physical theater program. So we represent different programs at the same wonderful school in the Department of Theater there. And I got the wonderful opportunity to study in Italy. So I was in Italy for a little over a year, studying physical theater, acting, voice, clown, all of it. Eating a lot of pasta, 3 meals a day. And I also met these wonderful people there. And ever since then, I kind of was a late comer to the party. And luckily got in on the ground floor, though, and has just not regretted a single moment working with these people telling stories since.
All right, so I have two things. First point of reference for those of you who don't know, Troy Bolton, he's talking about High School Musical. My kids all loved that, especially my daughters, my son, not so much. But that's the reference in case you don't know who Troy Bolton is. I've got to go back really quick, though, to one thing you said. Please tell me how you learn or practice clown.
Oh, well, I think contrary to maybe popular belief, clown is not the most fun thing or funny thing to practice. It is actually very difficult, very vulnerable. The way that my mentors and my clown teachers, because I've studied clown with 2 different organizations now, have both kind of used their principles are removing. You just remove and remove and remove until it's just your pure essence. So the way that we do that is through the nose. You put the nose on, and it's a magnifying glass for everything that's behind your nose.
Wow.
And it's just a matter of being ultra present with your audience or with your scene partners. And that's the spirit of clown. Is the clown is so present and so vulnerable that they're willing to be the joke. They're not making the joke. A clown very seldom makes a joke, but they allow themselves to be a joke. And through that, sometimes they allow somebody else who's laughing at them to be the joke. So it's a very
powerful.
Yeah.
I wasn't sure what answer you were going to say, but how powerful. Now you've changed my entire perspective on clowns. I've heard this before. I have had friends who have been professional clowns, like that they go and they do, and just some of the training, guys, it's not just slapping on the makeup and the big nose. There's a lot behind it. So thank you for being vulnerable and sharing that. I love that. All right, so I have to ask, in this day and age, even before COVID, being an actor, working in a troupe, working in a theater, it can be a challenge because there's the starving actor, the starving artist perception out there. So what made the 3 of you combine forces and go, we're going to create Boots on the Ground Theater, and here's how we're going to make it so it is a livable, breathable, functioning theater group?
Yeah.
I'll let anybody take it.
Well, I think you're saying like what was it and how
Yeah, because I think a lot of people think of an actor, think of an artist of any kind, and there's that perception that all artists are starving artists.
Yeah.
And then so for you all to get together, to band together, to co-create Boots on the Ground Theater is a risk. And what was it about it? What were you going to do different? What are you planning to do different? And why did you have the need, or what did you feel the need was to actually create this particular group?
Well, I think at the core of all of this, we've always believed that our mission, our mission is to use art as a positive catalyst for connections between individuals, communities, and systems. And then our vision is together create stories for a changing world. In a lot of ways, we've said we're trying to reclaim art and storytelling as a tool for change in our societies. If you look back, art memorializes, we look back at art to understand how people lived. So we understand that art has an amazing responsibility to its communities that it's in. And so it feels like a privilege to participate in it. And I know for myself, I graduated from my university and I was trained in acting, and I'm thinking, okay, what do I do now as an actress? Because I wanted to be useful. That's what I always say. I said, how can I be useful to my world, to my community? And that was where this all started, was with one story, which I think a lot of people, we came together for one particular story, which Cha-Cha, Charlotte, we call her Cha-Cha, tells the story the best.
Cha-Cha, so. I love that.
Yes, that is my nickname, or Cha or Cha-Cha, whatever. So like Mikayla said, we kind of coalesced around one story. We did not actually initially start thinking we're going to create a company and become a theater group altogether. But like I mentioned, my family is a military family, and my brothers and my cousin, like at this point, this was in 2017, my brother had gone into the Army, and my other brother was already in the Army, and my dad, everybody. So it was just really heavy on my heart that, my siblings were overseas and out there fighting for us. And so that was heavy on my heart. And then Mikayla had seen a play that is titled Grounded by George Brandt. And so she was really fired up about military families and communities. And she's what, we would refer to as a civilian. So she just she didn't know about the intricacies of what military families go through, or just military personnel. So we We had already known each other through the theater department. I'm actually a management major. I'm not an actor. I'm not a singer or anything like that. So we were just bonding over the shared experience of her learning about the military community and me being a part of it already through my family. And so we really just bonded over that story. And I said, yes, let's use art, something that we're both good at in our own fields, and let's bridge the gap between where I was and even where you were. And I'm sure there's other people out there who have that same gap in their empathy, that they don't understand where I'm coming from when I'm stressed out and sad, and she may have not understood where, you know, people who are fighting for our country are coming from. So it was just a beautiful sort of coming together on this one story. And it morphed into using our skills through storytelling to bridge gaps between people, to foster understanding and empathy and community. And that's really where it took off from there.
Yeah, I think thank you. To add to that, that was the beginning of our kind of model of work that now we're creating in. We started off, like you said, we just had a story and we wanted to tell it. That is the baseline of what this was. We thought this story mattered. It was a story of a female Air Force pilot who's reassigned to flying remotely piloted aircrafts, or drones as we know them. And we partnered with our local Veterans Affairs mental health counselor center. And we were like, hey, we want to talk to more people who are in this position. So I started doing interviews with pilots, with drone pilots. And we started talking about what are the mental health costs of modern warfare. And it led to us, after the shows, we would have somebody from the VA come and discuss this character, this woman, what are her options for mental health counseling after she's experienced these kinds of traumas. And we were like, wow, the pairing of this story and real life came together so beautifully, and we could make a real difference with the discussions. Like, we would open up and suddenly people were saying things in our audiences. We'd have a big discussion with the counselor and the whole audience, and they'd be saying like, I had no idea you felt that way, or I didn't know you felt that. And these people you thought would never come together were all sitting in a room and talking.
And one thing that I thought was really powerful is about halfway through that production, through the run of it, we started referring to that talkback as the second act of the show, because this is a 90-minute, no intermission, one-woman show. And I started to realize for myself that that was just as much theater and that was just as much art, that conversation happening, as the play was. And I think that that kind of codified for us that we could use art in a more expansive way than maybe we were even taught in our training. Is that, yes, the play, the way in is really powerful if it can be entertaining, if it can make you laugh, if it can make you cry. But the real change comes from bringing the community inside that art. And I'm always joking with them, kind of an unofficial tagline is, the only way to put art back in the community is to put the community into the art. So I think that that's kind of been a staple of what we do since then.
And honestly, right after that, again, we had no intention of being a company, and one person who was a armed service member brought us a book called See Me For Who I Am by David Christinger. And he said, will you put this book on its feet? And we were like, man, we should probably become an entity so we can start doing it. And then as soon as we finished, we developed that. We put a book on its feet. We worked with 2 universities in Wisconsin, touring throughout Wisconsin, performing with the armed service members from that university, putting that book on its feet. We worked with the original author, and that it just kept happening. We're like, wow, we should probably become a nonprofit. And we just kept getting the stories. As soon as we made ourselves available and we said all we want to do is find a way to help and tell other people's stories, they just kept pouring in and they haven't stopped. So since then, we started with armed service members, like we said, specifically female RPA pilots. Then we moved into the entire armed service community.
Right, dependents.
Everybody.
Military
telling their
people.
own stories.
Yeah.
And then
I have to say, so I joke that we don't do any research on the show. So I'm late to the party. Boots on the Ground then obviously has its origin in military.
Yeah.
Right. Okay. So I didn't listen. It's the light bulb is slow, but it doesn't come on. I love that. I actually have chills. I'm a big. We do a lot on the show, and I do a lot philanthropically with veterans. It's just such a that audience needs as much help and guidance and cathartic opportunities as they possibly can get. And I had zero idea that that's what Boots on the Ground is.
We
So
were actually
kudos.
named by a member of the community. They said to us, "You're so boots on the ground," and we were like, "That's good."
Yeah, it's really good.
Because we were they saw us at the counts. We were at the VAs. We were interviewing people in real life. We were bringing them to the shows, and they were like, "Wow, you're boots on the ground." And then
I've done so many interviews. I have never ever in all the arts world never come across a group that takes their talents with the arts and takes their background like Cha-Cha has and utilizes it in a way that becomes a tool or a platform to help our military and their families. I just think that is, I've got goosebumps. I think that is just so tremendous. What are you obviously you're getting a great amount, I'm imagining a great amount of response from the armed services community. Talk about some of the things that you all are out there doing.
Yeah. Well,
Go ahead, please.
So the thing is, we started with the armed service community and we have gone into other communities since. So we were not exclusively working in the armed service community. We would go back. We loved it. We had an amazing response. Like, wow. And that is what taught us how amazing art, how impactful art can be in a community that isn't maybe involved in it right now. So we went from there and worked with women who are survivors of domestic violence. And then we went from there and we were
to
working
the Space Coast.
The Space Coast
just
of Florida.
over in Melbourne. We went and started working with some of the community of the Kennedy Space Center and also local artists. We took a growing and kind of young arts community called the O'Galley Arts District over there.
Them.
And we partnered them with some of this heritage of the Kennedy Space Center and the whole Space Coast. And we put on a production and a devised community event and kind of initiative with that whole community. Mikayla traveled to Ukraine to gather stories from Jewish Ukrainians who are emigrating from Ukraine to Israel because of anti-Semitism, because of many, many struggles facing them. So we're just trying to use the model of actively putting our boots on the ground and doing the necessary research and then using the skills that we have within storytelling to get people, again, to that second act. Mm-hmm. Because a lot of people want to have the conversation, but they don't know that they can, or they haven't been invited. And I think that one thing that art consistently reminds us is that we are all empathetic. We are all humans. And once you can get somebody, there's this quote from Bertolt Brecht that I love. You have to get somebody to open their mouth before you feed them salt. So a lot of times you need somebody to laugh or cry or to say something or to scream at you before you can feed them the information they need or have them feed you the information. So I love the fact that you're taking it. It's newer, right? You're a newer group.
Yeah. This is our fourth year.
So what, obviously my question, just because I worry about all of my artist friends, is how are you handling the growth with your company, with the outreach that you're doing during this crazy time? Because obviously you can't go out and about, you can't do anything really, you can't be out. So what are you all doing differently? How are you approaching this? All three of you are obviously creatives. And so how are you handling that and still continuing the momentum of Boots on the Ground?
Yeah, absolutely. And honestly, it has been tough. I know it has been tough for our entire art community in Orlando specifically. And that hasn't changed. It is tough. But what we are doing is we still hold our work days together. We just do them online. We all meet and we chat and we continue to stay. Yesterday was one of our work days, and when I started our meeting, I had everybody take 20 minutes and go make something. You had 20 minutes. You had to involve a few things, and you had to upload it to our drive. And then we all looked at it, and it's just, for me as the driver of the boat, the leader of this organization, I hope to, and we really as the executive team try to empower the rest of the team to just keep creative in this time at bare minimum. You are so creative. You have the power in your hands with your phone, with your computer. Just make something. And in addition to that, we are sort of switching gears and really taking a focus onto our digital media. And we're creating content behind the scenes to be able to kind of put it out there. So we really are blessed, and we think that this is a good time to focus on our online community across the world. You know, we have friends in Italy and Korea and in South Korea, and we have people across the nation who look at our stuff. And so we're just using this time to create content that we can put on our medias. So
love it.
And it did affect what we were supposed to have started about 3 weeks ago. We were just about to kick off our inclusive theater program in Orlando, which is a new program we're very excited about. That is a theater for adults living with disabilities, and all of us to create stories together. That program was supposed to have kicked off about 3 weeks ago, and it's postponed for now, but it'll come back. I think artists are some of the best improvisers. So as soon as the circumstances changed, our given circumstances in the world of acting, your given circumstances change, and then your character changes. Somebody said something to me the other day, you just have to dance to the music. And I think that's what we're doing.
I love, go ahead, please.
Oh, I was just saying, and we're trying to find as many ways to support. As a newer company, we're blessed that we didn't have too much infrastructure that would be a really big challenge for us right now. Like other theaters that we really are trying to support and share and find ways to help our community come alongside them, because there are some places, and especially in Orlando, that are really going to struggle from all of this. So it's part of our job, I think, as an emerging arts group to help point people to those organizations as well. Because if one arts organization goes down, we all go down. It's really about succeeding together.
So tell me, how can people get involved? How can people what can they do to help support, continue the momentum, continue what you guys are doing? How can they get involved with Boots on the Ground?
I think there's so many ways. Probably the number one response you get from arts organizations is, where the money at? Because clearly money makes things happen. Money gets spaces, money gets resources for the work itself. But we're all struggling economically right now because of what's going on. So I think a lot of ways that we can get involved is just being active. Like Cha said, we're trying to stay creatively active, and we ask that our supporters do as well. We have a campaign right now on our social media called BOTG Storytime. Our official motto is stories that move. So stories that move. We are a big movement group, so we like movement and dance, but also stories that move people. And right now, when we're not able to move, we're actually being told to stay. We need our stories to move people in many, many ways. So people participating in that, keeping a positive, creative, kind of lighthearted energy during this time, I think is super important. That's the biggest way you can support. We're also always looking for what we call partners, with a P and then a parentheses around the art, partners.
Oh, nice.
So if there's any way that anyone watching this could get involved with any of our programming, like Mikayla mentioned, we have an inclusive theater class coming up. We also have a program hopefully emerging that's also been postponed called the Experiment Artistic Laboratory. We're really interested in helping some of the creatives in the area have a place that they can come and flex their artistic muscles just because it's important for us to grow as artists. So we're asking the performers at the parks, members of other theaters, to all come and be one community and just make things with no deadline for performance, with no ticket sales, nothing. We're just there to make things. So be thinking about that. We can add you to our Facebook group, drop a comment and we'll add you. We're just looking for people to make things with. And I think that that's one of the biggest ways people can do that. Yeah. Right now, there's not a lot to volunteer for. But as soon as programming kicks back off again, there's so many ways you can volunteer with our organization. And besides that, just spreading the word. And again, like Mikayla said, not just for us, but for arts in general.
Yeah.
We do not view arts organizations as competition, but collaborators, and reminding the non-artist folk who are the biggest patrons of the artist folk stuff to support.
Yeah, I think that's really a big thing for our audience watching right now. This is a great time for you to start sharing and following all of your local arts people and organizations, and not just us, all of them. Share them. If you have something to give it. This is a really crucial time for arts in our area to succeed, and we can only do that with the community and the artists all together in one spot. So follow us, follow everybody, share, donate to us, donate to somebody else. Just do it. Do something. Also, we have, and of course, we also, if you are somebody watching this with a story, like I said, all of our stories are brought to us. And we like that about our model. So if you're watching this and you're like, oh my gosh, I have a story about my family or this community or this blah, 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 and I think that somebody should hear it, email us. It's projects@botgtheater.org. It's theater with an ER, not an RE.org.
You can also visit our website, botgtheater.org. You can get connected there. You can also, you can either email us from there, you can donate from our website, and you can contact us from our website as well.
And another cool thing that a lot of organizations, especially arts organizations, have that we have is called Amazon Smile. So anytime that you shop on Amazon, a percentage of it that you don't even, it just goes to the organization. So we have an Amazon Smile account. So you can make Boots on the Ground your Amazon, or find another arts organization or nonprofit or local business because it costs you nothing. So you can go ahead and just make an Amazon Smile, and anytime you're shopping, it'll go to somebody.
So we're going to share all of that information. I want everyone to share when we post it, when you guys post it, make sure you share everything you just said again, and then we'll take it and share it as well. Cause I tagged you, and I think I tagged the theater group. I hope I did, the page, but you have so many more ways for people to get involved, and I want them to have all of that information. I have to say, I'm always surprised on my shows, but I'm certainly surprised here because I knew nothing going in. And what I've come away from is that you guys have these amazing hearts to help people. You have this philanthropic, giving spirit. And not that I expected you to be a whole bunch of hoity-toity actors and theater people, but I just don't know what I'm getting into when I don't know the people. And what a beautiful surprise. Thank you for what you're doing. Thank you for taking care of our community, for being a collaborator rather than a competitor in the arts community. I think that's so important. I think your message is strong, lots of love, lots of empathy, and let's all go out and support each other. And I absolutely love what you're doing with Boots on the Ground Theater. Thank you, Charlotte. Thank you, Mikayla. Thank you, Dalton. You guys were awesome. I'm moved. I have 1,000 things going on in my head of people to introduce you to, groups to introduce you to. And so I will absolutely work on that this week. Thank you guys so much for being on the show. You're a joy. We love you guys. We'll be back hopefully tomorrow. Definitely tomorrow. It's a crazy day. But thank you, Charlotte. Thank you, Mikayla. Thank you, Dalton. Boots on the Ground Theater, guys. Reach out to them. Give them some love. Mwah. We love you guys. Thank you so much.